What is your favorite thing about Bitcoin?
It's really something that the authorities or the people that control the world that we're living in essentially are discovering it and trying to figure it out at the same time as regular retail investors or regular economic actors. It's only 16 years old. That's so novel. Most of that time, the authorities and the elites, they ignored it. And now we're just coming into this time frame where they're actually starting to pay attention to it. So it's exciting. And it's always exciting when regular people have the same opportunities as the rulers of this world. Most people generally wait for the government to tell them what to do, and it's the people like us that are trailblazers. And you don't even have to be that big of a trailblazer to benefit from the discovery that Bitcoin is. It's a remarkable, unique experience, and we're not going to see this again anytime soon. I mean, this is a once in a thousand year kind of opportunity. Take advantage while you can. I think people have been groomed to trust what their media sources tell them, and their media sources are incentivized to delay the adoption of something that they can't control. And those media sources are sponsored by big financial institutions, and they know they were late, relatively speaking. All of these institutions are going to capitalize, but it shows how badly they want individual investors, individual economic actors to essentially be slaves to a system. They won't say, no one's going to tell you, oh yeah, Bitcoin's the next big thing, you should get on board. They won't tell you that until they're ready to dump on the market, until they're ready to exchange for fiat gains for whatever reason. I just feel like people have been so groomed to not learn to think for themselves. Most people don't really want to understand why things exist the way they do. They're essentially consumers. And the media and the big institutions that kind of run this world, they kind of give people what they want, which is a sheltered life, a life void of critical decision making, void of big risk. But of course, in order to expose yourself to opportunity and gains, you have to take risks. Consumer is a derogatory term. And, just like you said, we're labeled consumers. Why? Because the general population is not expected to do anything except pay for things that value creators make in society. And I think it would be an interesting revolution of society if everyone practiced a little bit of value creation and a little less consumption. It would cause our economy to be more efficient. It would cause savings to become more valuable. And I think it would just get people out of debt and needless things. And we're not going to live off of essentially buying things that will break in a year. And I think Bitcoin pulls people away from that. It kind of says, hey, you store your time earned value here where it will actually work for you. As people discover it more, people see how it's valuable, and you will reap the benefits of that value. So you could probably buy something that's worth your time and energy, whether it's a house, a car, just buy your freedom. But those are the kind of things that in our consumer-based society, most people will forever be prisoners of until they wake up. These tenets, they didn't just pop up around Bitcoin. These economic principles have always been around, but they've been lost, with this leaving the gold standard, with this debt-based economy. And I think this is just a social experiment that is now, it's now 55 years old. And I think it's coming to an end. And I don't think that, even though people are using Bitcoin as this capital asset to potentially create more fiat financial vehicles, I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to see that, wait, everyone has the option to own Bitcoin for themselves versus this layered, hidden, I don't want to call it Ponzi scheme, but these layers of fiat, these layers of financial tricks where you could just get the best money on earth for yourself, and use it as a means of exchange, as a store of value, and forget all the superfluous stuff. But we have to turn off the propaganda machine, and we have to look at the bare bones base principles of what is money, and Bitcoin is money, and that's what it boils down to. So why do you need the other thing? People don't think about money as time. Even though we always say time is money, time equals money. People see time and they see, well, how can I save time through other means besides, and let the money changers deal with the money. So when you think about these consumer tools, how good will an iPhone become? How good will an Android phone become? How good will AI become for a consumer? And they'll continue to be buyers of these things because it will save them a little bit of time. But in terms of, they don't realize that if they get a money that is good for their savings, it will essentially save them more time than any tool or robot or smartphone could save for them. But there will be a contingency of people that will mature under a Bitcoin standard, and they will see this great wealth transfer, in my opinion. I don't think that we're going to see a world where the dollar doesn't exist, not anytime soon, because there's just too many people who essentially don't really care what happens to the quality of their money. It's a sad state, but I do see that there will be a contingency of smart people that will be able to make good decisions for the world. And they will hold off this dystopia that we could walk into, a CBD dystopia, but it'll be an interesting mix of Bitcoin and fiat monies, with Bitcoin ever growing more powerful and ever growing more influential. Everything is good for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an optional network. Again, any country decides that they want to buy it. If any company decides they want to buy it, there you are. And what you want to do with it, there you are. Bitcoin covers any number of use cases, monetary use cases, the chief three being store value, medium of exchange, and unit of account. So if you want to sit on your Bitcoin and trade it for fiat at a future date, go right on ahead. If you want to sit on your Bitcoin and create these Bitcoin backed loans for people to use fiat, go on right ahead. And if you want to have Bitcoin so that you can work, so you can operate and thrive in a circular Bitcoin economy that's global, permissionless, and borderless, go right ahead. I say let everywhere have a free open market of monies, of currencies and Bitcoin, and let the best one win. If people like the comfort of their government issued currencies, then that should be fine. But if people say, hey, I take Bitcoin only, or I want to pay in Bitcoin, those companies and those businesses and actors should be able to come together. But at the end of the day, look, if we get to a place where Bitcoin is so valuable that the local fiat is essentially worthless, no one's going to want to take a Bitcoin-backed loan in fiat to buy anything if I can just buy something with Bitcoin. It's fun to look at the price. Every day I look at the price and I become desensitized to it. It doesn't matter if it goes down 5%. Like, it may hit a little bit, but I'm used to that. It's almost like lifting weights. When you go to the gym, you say, wow, like this hurts. But it gets to the point where it's like, no pain, no gain. And I am used to the pain that comes from trying to lift all that weight in a bench press or a squat. And so in the same way, a lot of people, why they can't adopt Bitcoin as a savings, because they say it's too volatile, but they don't realize that volatility is vitality. So it's like, if you can't go down, then you essentially can't go up. You have this fiat, and fiat has no competition. And now you have this hard, decentralized, borderless money. And you can see why the free market is choosing it over all the structure and the regulation from your local government. And it's a beautiful thing. And of course, money talks. The free market is always right. And so when you see Bitcoin at $100,000 now, let's just say I don't have any haters anymore. All those people, that six-figure number really shut everyone up. And so Bitcoin is a great vindicator because it's the literal invisible hand of the free market, without government intrusion that's holding things back. We probably will see a massive candle sometime in a couple of these months. I mean, we're in the bull month. This is 2017, 21, 25. I'm a firm believer in the cycle until the cycle goes away. But because I'm a believer in that, I'm also a believer in 18 and 22 and 26. And those were horrible years. So the real catch is, when do we go into that silly super cycle?
Everything's good for Bitcoin, right? Which I love that saying. But if you have this low time preferences, this right mindset, in my opinion, you kind of also adopt the everything's good for me. Everything's good for my Bitcoin, because if it goes up, my bags are pumping. If it goes down, cheaper sats. Like,
That's right.
and you hit that mindset where you're like, all right, shit's on sale.
So always, are you producing? Are you creating value? Are you getting a paycheck? Are you running a business so that you can have fiat available for when Bitcoin is available for you? And you should any time is a good buying opportunity. And sometimes are less opportune than others because you know where the cycle is going. But you should never be trying to predict the market. So be ready for those and be ready to capitalize, and you should be fine. But again, as long you got to be creating value. Don't ever just think that you can just trade your way up to the top. I know a lot of people who are like that and they're struggling. It's not worth it. Tell that to anybody whenever we talk about MicroStrategy. Like, hey, full disclosure, I have some, but I don't think it's the best long-term option. Bitcoin will be solvent regardless of what a bear market or a recession or a depression brings. One Bitcoin equals one Bitcoin. You can't say the same thing with mining companies, which I have, or MicroStrategy. My goal now is to not get greedy and to stay humble and know what the plan is, and don't get twisted up by the bull market mysticism and the mystique about it. Like, have your plan, stick to it, don't get wrecked. Bitcoin is money simplified. It's the best way to preserve your wealth, and I will never forsake that perspective.